In this video, I want to take you through 12 of the most difficult problems faced by new course creators. Now, I'd like to share with you first how this came about. I put a question out in the Udemy studio, basically saying, what do people find most difficult? And I've got a massive thread of great responses. And the first thing I want to do is thank everybody who contributed to that discussion. But I found their responses so interesting that I thought it would be well worthwhile turning them into a video so that I can share some of their answers with you and also share my view on the issues that came up. So hopefully you'll be able to benefit from my experience as well. Now, I'm going to take you through this in the logic that I follow in my courses, which is the 6 steps to course creation. And the first of these is planning. Now, one of the topics that came up was managing the content. How do you manage to plan your content and then stick to it? So if your original plan is 30 lectures, you could end up with 50. Now, one of the main ways of doing this is to keep yourself focused on the core topic, the issue you're dealing with. Really try to address the pain that you've set out to solve for your audience. And my recommendation is to try to keep your course between 1 and 2 hours in length, because otherwise you're going to make it much more difficult for the student to actually study the course. But equally, you're going to make it much more difficult for yourself to actually complete the course. And if you end up with a really, really long course, then consider splitting it into 2. Finding the time management, it's a real pain for all of us. How do we find the time? And particularly if you've got a full-time job, it means you've got to work in the evenings and at weekends. We're all very busy, but you have to realize that creating a course is a marathon. It's not a sprint. But if you get yourself organized and you have real focus, then actually I do think you can do it. Now, one of the things I try and do, I have a number of courses all the time in sort of draft mode. And one of my objectives at the moment is to try to really get some of these completed, because they've been hanging around, some of them, for months. So I'm trying to force myself in a week to complete one of these courses. Now today I've made 5 videos for one of the courses that I'm making. And if I can do that every day, then I'm going to end up with 25 videos, which is pretty well the full course, even if I've got to add the summary and then the introduction and then the promo video afterwards, which are relatively easy to do. So try to produce 20% of your content per day if you can. Now, maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can only do 2 or 3 videos because of the time available. Well, fine. So aim to complete half your course one week and then half your course the next week. But make it a specific task every day to do a certain amount, and you'll find you clip through it. But also by breaking it up into digestible chunks, it stops becoming this huge mountain that you're having to climb, because all you've got to do is focus on what you need to do that day. Let's look at some of the production issues that came up. Slide creation was one. People saying it was difficult to create slides. Well, as you can see from all my courses and all my videos, I have a very simple process. All my slides are standardized. I try to use relatively few words. I talk to them. They're my prompts. You can see me occasionally looking at them. And I use the established templates. Keynote and PowerPoint provide these. Find one you like and stick to it. It makes it really simple. And if you create a system and a process, it'll make it much faster. So let's talk about lighting and editing. Again, simple is best. I've got a big window at one end of my study over there, but I also try to adjust for ambient conditions. So I've got ceiling lights and I've got a couple of desktop lamps that I use as well. But it means my setup is very simple and very easy, and I don't have to spend half an hour setting it up in order to go and make a video. I can literally switch a few buttons on and I'm up and running. So again, I've talked about the slide production, but in terms of your editing, set a style for each of your lectures. Have a standard intro, use standard slides, we've talked about that. Have a standard video set up and a standard outro. And that way everything becomes much faster. You'll recognize that my videos do have a standard element to them, and it makes it much easier for me to produce them and much faster. Now, being in front of the camera is something we all have to get used to. And Alexa Fisher is a great expert on this. I have taken some of her courses and I've still got a lot to learn. But definitely, the more you do it, the better you get at it and the more confident you get it. So practice is really the only way to do it. Make sure you do keep looking into the lens like I am now. Now, I do occasionally dart away because of my setup to look at my notes on the screen, which I know is not perfect, but I hope it's tolerable. They also say you should smile more, which I don't do. I'm not very good at talking like this because I feel a bit like the wide-mouthed frog. But it's definitely more engaging if the person who is delivering the lecture looks like they're enjoying themselves rather than finding it all rather dull. I recommend you speak to notes and not read a script. Now, I'm useless at reading out and making it sound interesting. So for me, this is more like a normal conversation, but I know the points I'm addressing because I've pre-formatted the lecture and I've got all the points I want to make on each individual slide. Don't worry too much about ums and ahs. I mean, obviously, if you've got a big problem or a telephone goes or you realise you've got a typo on your screen and you've got to stop, keep the recording going because you can deal with it all in the editing process. And I believe that natural speech, as I'm trying to deliver to you now, is more interesting and more engaging than some sort of really dry, mechanically delivered written script. Just my humble opinion. Background noise can be a big issue. Now, I strongly believe here that prevention is better than cure. Earlier this afternoon, I banished my dog back to the kitchen because he wouldn't settle down, and I found it really distracting, as well as somewhat annoying to have his noises in the background. I've got a directional microphone here on my right, which is picking up my voice directly and tends not to pick up noises from outside. But I don't have any aircon and I haven't got a computer fan running, and those two things can make a big difference to the sound. Find, if you can, a quiet room. My study here is really nice and quiet and isolated from the rest of the house. But if you can't, then try to create some sort of mini studio in or a cupboard, or put some coverings around your microphone to try to insulate it from background noise. Definitely, you do not want to be spending hours in Audacity or in your software trying to get the background noises out of your recording. Now, dealing with technical glitches, again, it's partly practice and familiarity with the technique. Make sure you back up your recordings that you save regularly when you're going through the editing process. But again, if you keep your setup and your arrangement as simple as possible, there's a lot less to go wrong. And if you do make a mistake when you're recording, just keep going and then do another take and you can sort it out in the edit process. The minute you stop and you lose your flow, then it's much more difficult to get back into the pace and keep the recording going. If necessary, if you clap at the point where you make a mistake, you'll see the spike on the sound line, and that'll help you to bring to your attention that there's a problem there that you need to sort out. Now, some people are saying that speaking English, if English is not their foreign language, is an issue. Well, the first thing I want to do is to congratulate you on actually tackling something as complicated as this in a foreign language. It's not something I can do. I am not multilingual, so I give you, my respect for doing that. But if you deliver your material with confidence, then actually accents and slightly imperfect English can be very charming, particularly to anybody who's speaking English. And actually, nobody will mind if the content's great. Then they'll be much more taken with the content than worry about the fact that you don't speak 100% perfect English. Let's look now at one or two of the issues around publication. And your course title, subtitle and description are obviously critical. And again, people have indicated this is a challenge for them. Well, the title is a very straightforward formula. It's topic plus benefit. And then the subtitle, you want to try and get at least 3 benefits into the subtitle so that people really understand what they're going to get from the course. What's in it for me is at the center of what you're trying to deliver. Now, as far as the description is concerned, I believe you should try and write it like a sales letter. And you should deal with objections and create scarcity and have social proof and all these sorts of components in it. Udemy, I think, has a slightly different view. But don't forget, when you're writing it, Udemy is a search engine, and you must get your SEO with your keywords around your course into the text as well as into the title and the subtitle. Now, keep testing is a great piece of advice. Try different things and change it all the time, and go back and revise your descriptions and see if you can make them better so that you rank higher. Another thing to do is to look at how other people who have produced similar courses to you have produced their titles and their subtitles and their descriptions. Now, I'm not suggesting for 1 minute you copy them, but you can get inspiration from them. And one of the best people to study in this regard is Alan Hill, who is continually testing and evolving. And I always find it interesting to go back to his courses and look to see, what he's been doing and try to work out why he's done what he's done. Now, another issue that came up is about interaction with students who are asking the same questions. Well, the first thing I would say, if you've got a problem with students asking too many questions, this is a great problem, because Udemy likes engagement from the students, and you'll rank higher for it in the algorithm. But you might consider creating a series of FAQs at the back of your course that people can actually have those questions addressed in, as well as coming up in the discussion comments on the right hand side. And I know one instructor mentioned in the studio post that we were discussing that he's actually even going so far as to have a weekly hangout where he can help his students, which I think is a fantastic thing to do, and it shows real commitment. Let's take a look now at promotion. And one of the big issues was, how do you promote if you haven't got a following? Well, the simple answer is, I'm afraid you need to start to develop one, because if you just dive into lots of other people's groups and do lots of promotion, then you're going to get hammered for spamming. But you can start your own social media accounts. You can create a website. You can develop then an email list and start a podcast, perhaps. After all, if you're doing courses, you've got all the equipment you need for a podcast pretty well. Definitely create several accounts on Twitter and get going, because Twitter, you can grow these followings really quickly. But the only thing I can say is you need to get stuck in and creating one, because promotion of your courses is a really crucial part to being successful on Udemy. Now, let's talk about marketing, because not every instructor is a great marketer, and the two don't automatically go together. But you do need to develop a marketing plan for each social media platform where your audience is to be found in order to communicate to them. You definitely want to be developing an email list. You definitely want to be reaching out to the people in your contact list. And I would strongly recommend that you not only join Facebook groups, but you actually consider setting up your own Facebook group where you can attract your own tribe in, and then you can promote as much as you want in your own Facebook group because it belongs to you. So that's it. 12 of the most difficult problems faced by new course creators. I hope that gives you some help, some inspiration, and it gives you a few ideas about how you can actually tackle the course creation process yourself and create great courses which will be very successful and profitable on Udemy. Thanks for spending the time with me, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon in another one of my videos.